But no, I don't. I don't see that. I mean, overconfidence would be an excuse that's, I don't think, merited here.
No, and it's funny, in that what you were just saying, you mentioned Denver, and I just think back a couple weeks back at the beginning of the season at Seattle, and how a couple of games in, people were like, wow, they look like they're picking up right where they left off. That's your back-to-back Super Bowl champions right here, you know, and and they're working out their kinks too. I still love Seattle, but my point is
yeah, you're right. But they've got in the NFL today, they've got the same record as the Cleveland Browns. Now, obviously,
yes,
they've played a slightly tougher schedule. I can honestly say that the two best teams that the Browns have played this year, I would say the only two good teams the Browns have played this year, the Saints and the Ravens, were 1-1 against them. Anybody else on the schedule that they've played, isn't a good team. And I think if you look at out there in the NFC West, where you've got San Francisco and Arizona, and Seattle all playing, that suffice to say, even just in their division, they've got a tougher schedule than the Cleveland Browns have. But right now, no one looks at that. They say Seattle's 3-3, Browns are 3-3. We're both playing in the same 32-team league, and obviously, I don't think anybody would say that we're comparable in terms of our talent and our overall ability, but that's the way the NFL works. When you're a 4-12 team, the NFL gives you a weaker schedule.
And the NFL is the league, because there's only 16 of them, of the overreact and overcompensate and underreact and undercompensate from week to week. I mean, we say it all the time. When you win, it's the greatest week in the world, and when XYZ team loses, it's the end of the world and all the bottoms falling off, and then it starts all over again when they play another game. It's the cycle that we live in with sports talk, media, and all of that. And, man, I'll tell you what, I saw Vashon talking about Seattle getting robbed. You want to talk about getting robbed? Let's talk a little NFL or NCAA. I mean, we'll talk Buckeyes here. They rolled pretty much the way people figured here, 56-17. Looking around the NCAA, you and I had talked about obviously the spotlight game this week. You had Notre Dame and Florida State. Seminoles win, but not really, because Notre Dame ran the play at the end of the game. I mean, you saw it. I've seen it. I don't know if you guys listening have. What are your thoughts there? Did Notre Dame get robbed at the end of that game, or did they run an illegal pick?
Boy, I don't know. That is such a tough call. Most of the reaction negatively to that has been from, the Notre Dame faithful, either that or just the flat-out Jameis Winston haters, who wanted to see Florida State lose. Now, I wanted to see Florida State lose, too, and I thought, oh, man, that's a borderline call. You don't decide a football game on a call like that. But knowledgeable football people up and down the line have said it was a good call, the correct call. Boy, I don't know. I just think if the receivers run straight out, and Anquan Bolden got called on one of the same things yesterday, took a touchdown away from his team, that where he ran straight out, ran into the defender. The defender's out there. He ran straight out from the line of scrimmage and went to block a defensive back, and it was called a pick, and they called a touchdown back on it. And it's really the same thing. It's such a judgment call, such a borderline call that I hate to see football games, especially football games between number 2 and number 5, two undefeated teams decided on the basis of that kind of I wouldn't have called it. I would have thought it was a no call. And I wanted Notre Dame to win. But I also respect the opinions of people who I read and respect, who said, it was right. You can't really bitch about it.
Yeah, I mean, really a lot, because some people are like, well, what's the big deal? You're supposed to block the guys. But really, it's the matter of when the block is engaged. If it's engaged from the beginning of the play, then it's illegal. It cannot just be, the ball has to be in the air. There's a certain delineation there that you could go either way. I'm with you as far as, I'm not what was called, but I'm with you as far as I hate to see the end of any game. Hate to see a call on the last play of a basketball game, whatever it is. You hate to see the game come down to that, especially when it's been a good game and it's gone back and forth and can go either way. You hate to see the game get lost in that manner there too, and especially with
especially when Brian Kelly says afterwards that that's the way. They practice that play. They know what the rules are. They practice that play, and they didn't think they were doing anything illegal. They were running in the play the way they practiced it, etc. again, it's officials inserting themselves in a situation where maybe a no call would have been the way to go.
And Kelly had a good point, too. The official that actually called it was the one that was furthest away from the play compared to everybody else that was up there, which is a different visual perspective than some of the people that may have been closer. I mean, it's over. We can't really do anything but talk about it now. But he said after the game, I actually saw during his press conference yesterday, he said that when they tried to explain it to him, he actually understood it less after the explanation than he did while he was on the field as the play happened.
Yeah, that's true. And first of all, it was so bizarre for me to be rooting for Notre Dame. Normally I always think of that Jack Nicholson line from that one movie where he says, "I'd rather stick needles in my eyes." For me to root for Notre Dame is just outrageously impossible. Except I just have been so appalled by the way the Florida State people have behaved in this Jameis Winston matter that I just can't wish them well in anything that they do going forward this season. So I found myself rooting for the Irish there, and boy, that was just a very awkward place to be. Talk about cognitive dissonance, man. I didn't know what I was thinking.
I hear you. It's like it's that foreign land, It's like when you get to those tiebreakers
like when
at the end of a season.
when Michigan plays Notre Dame.
Right.
You just root for lots of injuries.
Those weird positions when you're like, you need Pittsburgh to win or you need the Yankees to win or something, and you're like, man, I'm just going to turn it on 3 hours from now and see what happened. I'm not rooting for anything here, I'll just watch. Let's see the results afterwards. Like, whenever I'm in that situation, that's what I do. I'll tell little Jerry all the time. Like, no, I'm not watching it. I don't want to see that. I'm just going to it's magic. Whatever happens, somebody's going to wave a wand. I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to pretend it's not happening, and hopefully the result is what we needed, because I can't get into rooting for the guys I don't like. I hear you, though. I feel you there. And anyways, it would have been good for the Buckeyes, too, to add a loss there. Of course, Florida State at the top there, near the top of the polls, but it didn't work out that way, and it is what it is. It was a good game, that's for sure. And there was a few of those and a few blowouts, too. I was driving. I know we'll talk Buckeyes in a minute. I was driving to Pittsburgh, and we were flipping through, scanning the stations. We got to some no man's land in between towns, and some FM station had a football game on. And then it just caught us by surprise because Jerry and I were driving together. And we hear the score, but we didn't hear the teams. And I'm driving, so I'm only half paying attention. He goes, "Hey, what game is this?" I said, "I don't know. I think he said it was Alabama. Aren't they playing A&M?" He goes, "No." I'm like, "Why?" It's 52-0. I was like, "What?" It's like, "No, that can't be that game." So now we turn the radio up and we're listening. Sure enough, it was the end of the third quarter. It was 52-0, and we're like, "Wow, they are whitewashing these guys here, man." Didn't expect that score.
Yeah, that was pretty surprising. You don't want to piss Nick Saban off,
obviously.
And he obviously has been a little put out. He's not accustomed to being a one-loss team sort of back in the pack, and I guess he's now back up to number 4 after that performance. But yeah, that was shocking. And A&M isn't what they've been the last few years, but they've already had a loss or two. But that SEC West, boy, I mean, you wake up on Monday morning and you've got a top 5, and 4 of them are in one division of one conference. We've talked earlier in the season, Jerry, you and I, about how you can't deny that the best football in the country is being played in the SEC West, but 4 out of the top 5 teams in one half of one conference is pretty remarkable. And they're going to keep knocking each other off, but that won't mean that they aren't still the place where the best football is being played. That's the dilemma that the committee is going to have to deal with come December. And boy, it's there's going to be crying long and hard around the country when and if a 2-loss team from the SEC West gets into that Final Four. And I can very easily see that happening, as I've told you before.
You could be the SEC 4, all of a sudden people are like, hey, wait a minute, we're doing the championship game all over again here. But yeah, I can see that there's going to be some arguments for sure, depending, especially let's see how these losses continue to pile out here. A couple of, not a lot of big top 10 matchups except for Notre Dame and Florida State this week. Ohio State, big victory for them over Rutgers. I said, you know what? I'm done looking for the upsets from the Buckeyes, because they really have done better than I think most of us thought of recovering after that loss. Not saying that they shouldn't have won all these games, but you thought it was going to be a lot shakier. You thought that may have been the beginning of perhaps a 2, 3, 4 loss season as they grow and develop with the young quarterback and all of that. But, man, they've gotten themselves rolling and offensively. And I was telling somebody that yesterday. I said, I'm not, I know there's other issues and teams they still got to beat, but offensively, that's an SEC offense now. I mean, Urban Meyer is happy with his offense now because they just put up yards and points like we haven't seen an Ohio State team do in a while. But they've gotten stronger where you thought that there may be some ups and downs here. Big victory here. Still not the toughest competition, but when you're playing weaker teams, you want to do what Ohio State's doing, which is roll these guys.
Yeah, step on their neck when they're down, yeah. And, Meyer, to his credit, I think, this morning in his press conference, here his quarterback, his freshman quarterback, who's got 20 touchdowns in 6 games, 20 touchdown passes in 6 games, and the team record being 30 with 7 games to go. And it was just named Big Ten Player of the Week and Big Ten Freshman of the Week. Meyer's quote was, he can play a lot better. I wasn't totally happy with the way he played. He can do a lot of things better. Downplaying the multi-time Big Ten Player of the Week, and I think he's won Big Ten Freshman of the Week about 4 times already. So he's playing great. There's no getting around it. J.T. Barrett is the real deal. He does have all kinds of weapons. This week was sort of the Jalen Marshall coming out party. He had a lot of carries, a lot of catches. He returned punts. He returned kickoffs. It looked good doing it. Didn't break anything long, but boy, the kid is just tough, and tacklers bounce off him. And he's got a big future ahead of him. Dontre Wilson was almost an afterthought in this game. He sort of lost some reps to Jalen Marshall. Must be because Meyer says that Marshall is just doing it in practice and showing that he belongs out on the field in important times. And so that was all great to see. He really tried to reward Evan Spencer with the touchdown, and then threw to him 3 times in a row down on the goal line. Couldn't get the connection, but the next time down, Spencer made one of the great catches of the year, a one-handed grab there that was just really pretty. And Meyer says that he's just doesn't always show up on the stat sheet, but he's one of the best receivers out there. He's a great blocker downfield in the running game, and obviously showed off his hands a little bit there in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and yesterday was a good chance to get a lot of guys out there, talking about those guys and the reps. Looking at the rushing, you had 7 guys run, but at least 6 for Ohio State with more than 4 carries in yesterday's game. You had a good distribution, 6 different backs rotating. They averaged 8 yards of ground, 8 yards of carry on the ground as a team there. Everybody no lower than 5 yards of carry. Receiving, you had 8 different guys. Actually, it was 9 different guys receive passes, 7 different guys with a rushing attempt throughout the game. So a lot of distribution, a lot of people, and that's good about games like this. But that's scary too when you talk about downplaying a guy like Dontre Wilson and still having the people able to contribute here this week, rushing wise. It was after Elliott the last few weeks stepped up. This week it was Barrett again. Now he's over 100 yards rushing here, and you gotta like that though. You're getting to all of these weapons here are getting a chance to do some things. You're seeing the growth of a guy like Marshall there, and really it goes along with what I said. You're definitely seeing the type of offense. It's not there yet, all cylinders, but you're seeing what Urban Meyer envisions. And I tell people all the time, I'm not necessarily a 3 yards in a cloud of dust guy. I'm not necessarily this guy either, although, hey, whatever wins games, it wins. But, it's a different type of Ohio State football, that's for sure.
Well, it sure is. And, going back to the Tressel years when, all the team was doing was winning, but the fan base was just frustrated as all get out with the offensive conservatism. I mean, this is the offense that Ohio State fans have been dreaming about. I'm talking about dreaming about since Woody Hayes. I mean, we had a time there under Earl Bruce where they had a pretty wide open attack, but it was always based on having a big time tailback like a Keith Byers and the sprint draw being the bread and butter play, and still a heavy rushing oriented team. Well, Meyer wants a 50-50 balance, and he's been pretty good at getting that. But he's running inside, he's running outside, he's running read option, and he's running power.